Namaskar friends. This episode is extraordinary and deeply troubling. Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir has made some of the most brazen nuclear threats in recent history. Not from a military parade in Rawalpindi, not from a war footing on the line of control, but from American soil. Yes, you heard that right, American soil. In fact, in Tampa, Florida, at a black tie dinner to a select gathering of Pakistanis abroad. And what he said has implications not just for India, not just South Asia, but for global security. I am Tilak Devasher and you are watching The Great Game Reloaded. Munir was officially in Florida for a ceremonial reason, to attend the retirement of General Michael Corella, the outgoing US CENTCOM commander, and the assumption of command by Admiral Brad Cooper. This was Munir's second trip to the US in just 2 months. Back in June, he was at the White House for lunch with President Donald Trump. I had talked about this in episode 13. This time, aside from the public events, the CENTCOM change of command and the meetings with US military leaders, there was something else. A private dinner in Tampa with 120 members of the Pakistani diaspora. Guests were told no cell phones, no digital devices. The venue was kept secret, reportedly to avoid protests from supporters of Imran Khan. The speech was from a prepared text, but there is no official transcript. What we know comes from attendees and Pakistani YouTubers, and it is explosive. First, Munir spoke about India's decision to put the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance and to maximize its legal use of western rivers, Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, waters that Pakistan relies on. Strangely, Munir claimed this could put, quote-unquote, 250 million at risk of starvation. What he was implying was that India legally using its share of the western rivers allowed by the treaty could put Pakistan's 250 million at the risk of starvation. How does that even make sense? But more important was what he said next, and I quote, "We will wait for India to build a dam, and when it does, फिर 10 missile से फारग कर देंगे." Translation, we will destroy it with 10 missiles. Then for good effect, for his Pakistani audience he said, and I quote, "Indus River is not the Indians' family property. We have no shortage of missiles, alhamdulillah," unquote. This is as crazy as it gets. India is not building storage dams on the western rivers, but run-of-the-river hydroelectric power projects that the treaty allows. Clearly, Munir does not know the difference between storage dams and run-of-the-river projects. The moot point is that here is an army chief threatening to bomb civilian infrastructure in a neighboring country in peacetime and making the threat from US territory. Moreover, if Pakistan were to destroy any dams, where does he think the water will flow? Obviously downstream into Pakistan, causing massive flooding. Then of course, will Pakistan's own dams, Mangla and Tarbela, remain safe? But Munir wasn't done. Munir warned that if Pakistan faced an existential threat in a future war with India, quote, "We are a nuclear nation. If we think we are going down, we will take half the world down with us," unquote. Let that sink in. A Pakistani general threatening nuclear Armageddon from an American city, and that too on the 80th anniversary of the US bombing of Nagasaki. To my knowledge, this is the first nuclear threat ever issued from the US soil against a third country, and that too by an army chief who controls Pakistan's nuclear weapons. Does a responsible country do that? Does a responsible leader do that? Does Pakistan think nuclear weapons are for war fighting? The Indian Ministry of External Affairs on 11th August 2025 came out with a brief and to the point statement underlining that nuclear saber rattling was Pakistan's stock in trade. It called Munir's remarks irresponsible and reinforcing the well-held doubts about the integrity of nuclear command and control in a state where the military is hand in glove with terrorist groups. The statement underlined that India will not give in to nuclear blackmail. Munir followed his nuclear threat with an odd and chilling comment. He said he once ordered a tweet with a Quranic verse about divine punishment alongside the photograph of Indian industrialist Mukesh Ambani. The Quranic verse describes how Allah sent birds to drop stones on an enemy's war elephants, reducing them to quote-unquote chewed up straw. Munir's implication was clear. Apart from a direct threat against the Indian industrialist, he was indicating what Pakistan would do next time. Then came another threat. Munir declared, and I quote, "We'll start from India's east, where they have located their most valuable resources, and then move westwards," unquote. This threat mirrors earlier remarks by Pakistan's DG ISPR, the military spokesman, to The Economist. In response to a question about India threatening further military action if there was a terror strike, the DG ISPR asserted that Pakistan would begin by striking deeper within India. Quote, "We will start from the east," he said. "They also need to understand that they can be hit everywhere," unquote. Apart from the threat, indirectly this was a confirmation that Pakistan had been hit everywhere by India during Operation Sindoor. Next came a crude analogy. Munir compared India to a shiny Mercedes on a highway and Pakistan to a dump truck full of gravel. He asked, and I quote, "If the truck hits the car, who is going to be the loser?" Unquote. In trying to praise Pakistan's capability, Munir glorified India. The comparison between a shiny Mercedes on a highway and a dump truck would not escape anyone. Munir then made a direct case for military involvement in Pakistan's politics. Quoting French politician Clemenceau's famous quote, "War is too serious to be left to the generals," Munir added, "Politics is also too serious to be left to the politicians." This was clearly an open admission of the military's political dominance in Pakistan, something that the army has long denied in public. It could also be a signal of Munir's own ambitions for the future. Finally, Munir talked about Pakistan's finds of rare earth metals, minerals and hydrocarbons, the kind of resources that could attract global investors and reshape Pakistan's economic fortunes. However, nothing specific was mentioned about where exactly these finds were. This could well be similar to Pakistan's mysterious oil discoveries that nobody knows about. The important question is, why is Munir showing such aggression now, and why in the US? There is a domestic dimension to this outburst. Till a few months ago, it was presumed that Munir getting an extension in November when he completes his 3-year tenure as Army Chief was a done deal. Now, however, reports are emerging that several senior generals have thrown their hats in the ring. Some key politicians, especially in the Sharif family, have started having second thoughts about his extension. The only time politicians have an upper hand over the army is when a new army chief is to be appointed or an incumbent given an extension. This is one part of the equation. The other part are the strong rumors and chatter on social media that Munir planned to replace President Asif Ali Zardari and become president. Meanwhile, as if on cue, the Pakistan Army has denied as quote-unquote baseless the rumors that Army Chief Asim Munir plans to become the next president. DG ISPR Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif told The Economist that talks of Munir becoming president was quote-unquote nonsense. Despite the denial, or perhaps because of it, the rumors continue to fly in Pakistan. Also, the speech of Air Chief Marshal AP Singh listing out Pak losses during Operation Sindoor would have rattled Pakistan, provoking questions domestically. Why did Munir become Field Marshal if these were Pak losses? His remarks in Tampa should thus be seen against a domestic backdrop as his way of warning politicians of who is in command and diverting criticism of Pak losses against India. But domestic reasons apart, why did he make the remarks in the US? Quite possibly, Munir has been greatly encouraged by his meeting with President Trump, who chose to meet with the army leadership rather than the democratically elected leadership of Pakistan. Munir, perhaps, now believes that he can get away with anything. Finally, should the world care about an after-dinner speech in Tampa? It should, because this was not a slip of the tongue. These were prepared remarks by Pakistan's most powerful man in a country that gives Pakistan billions in aid, military training and diplomatic engagement. The US has hosted him twice in 2 months. And in between handshakes and black tie dinners, he is threatening nuclear war. This raises questions. How does Washington view such statements? Will there be a diplomatic pushback? And what message does this send to India, China, or even Pakistan's own people? While Pakistan has a long history of nuclear posturing, but doing it from American soil is a new escalation, one that risks normalizing nuclear threats in diplomatic spaces. It undermines arms control norms, it weakens crisis stability in South Asia, and it tells the world Pakistan's military is willing to bring the planet to the brink. Link his nuclear threats to the mineral stock and the bigger picture emerges. Pakistan is signaling two things. It is dangerous enough to be feared. It could be resource rich enough to be courted. This is classic strategic brinkmanship, part deterrent, part sales pitch. But the danger is obvious. When your diplomacy is built on threats, you leave little room for trust. The Tampa speech will not be on Pakistan's state TV. It won't be in official communiques. But its echoes will be heard in Washington, in Delhi, and in every capital that deals with Pakistan. Because when a general boasts about missiles, nuclear war, and political control all in the same breath, you're not just hearing one man's opinion, you're hearing the mindset of Pakistan's most powerful institution. And that mindset, as we saw in Tampa, is armed and unrestrained and irresponsible. Thank you for watching. Do like, share and comment. See you again soon with another topic and another anecdote. Until then, I am Tilak Devasher. Namaskar and Jai Hind.